let's get into ZBrush then. I'm just gonna open this. Here we have our model. And I want to export. I don't care about the texture, I just want to export the model. Call it test for now. Save. Yeah. Just click OK. And I want to open ZBrush. So here we got it. And the first thing you want to do, is to select some model here, just to be able to open this toolbar, this toolbox. Go to export, change scale from 0 to 1. If you don't do this, the first thing, you will have issues. You might have issues, not always, but often, that when you re-import your mesh into Agisoft, it'll be placed in the wrong position in space. Making sure that the scale here is set to 1 will guarantee you that the model always comes in the same space, in the same scale as you exported it, which is really important. Now what I want to do is go to New Document, and I want to import the tool here, my OBJ file. I'm just going to drag it out, hit T. T is shortcut for edit up here. So if you don't do that, you can't add it. I mean, as long as you're not in the edit mode, you're in a 2D mode. So I can, I can do it like this, but I cannot rotate or anything. So you have to click T, and now just click somewhere on the model, and now you can rotate it. Now what I want to do, I want to change this color to matcap gray. I just prefer it that way. And I want to go, you have all the tools here. I don't know, if you've never used ZBrush before, I won't go into everything, but I kind of assume that you know your way around ZBrush a little bit. But anyway, here in the tool palette to the right, you have something called polycount. Just go in there and uncheck colorize. So now we can actually see the model. I can click this button here to see the wireframe if I want to. I don't care about that right now. So anyway, what I want to do now is to go to Subtool, and here I have this, and I want to make a copy of this. So duplicate that. I can uncheck that so I won't be, won't see that one. And now what I want to do is to go into geometry. I want to remesh this into quads. Now what I'd like to do first, because if you use ZRemesher, if you have any holes in this geometry, you, actually let's fix that first. I want to cut this stuff off here. So what you can do is to hold Control, so you can mask. Just make a smaller brush. If you hold Control, you can mask like this. And there, you can't just click delete. There's no way to just delete mesh like that easy in ZBrush. So what you have to do is you have to go to polygroups, and you have to group masked. And now, by the way, to deselect, just hold Control and draw a square outside, and you can deselect. So now you can see we got a polygroup for this masked geometry. So now what I can do, hold Control and Shift and just click this. That hides all polygroups except the one you're clicking on. If you click it again, it'll invert the selection. If you click outside, it'll unhide everything. So now just hold Control Shift, click there, and it hides that geometry. Now what I can do is to go to Geometry and modify topology, and here we have a button called delete hidden. So just click that, and voila, that mesh is gone. So now if I do like this to unhide everything, there's nothing. All right, so what we can do now, as I was saying about the ZRemesher does not cap holes. So what I can do, either go into modify topology and I can click close holes, or what I like to do is to use Dynamesh and just hit Dynamesh here, because that will, not only will it like make a nice remesh of the model, but it'll also cap all the holes. So I kind of like doing that first, that way. And from a Dynamesh like this, you have a lot less polygons now, which means that the ZRemesher will go a lot faster. Now there is some tricks you can use to control the poly loop and stuff. For this model, I won't care, but I'll do a pot as well to, because it's a little bit, just to show these tools basically. I won't care about that for now. So hit ZRemesher. There we go. So now we have nice poly loops, nice quads all over. So what we can do now is to actually, what I used to do before was to unwrap it at this stage. But I realized that's a bad idea because if I unwrap it now and then I project all the details from the high res model to the low res model, the unwrap will actually distort a little bit. So I will wait with that. So what I want to do is to, you can see here you have total points 293,000, active points 8,000. So 8,000 is the points of this mesh here, and here you have 284,000. So I want to have this model to the same or a higher polycount. So what I can do, go to geometry, click divide a couple of times. So I increase the polycount. Okay, I have to go one step. So now we have 500,000 polys in this model. So now you can see if I zoom in here, it's really nice and smooth. So now what we can do is to project all the details from this geometry, the scan, the raw scan, onto our new remeshed model. So to do that, you have to have both visible, and you need your new model selected because that's the target, and then it'll project the details from all other visible subtools into the one you have selected. So if I have that one selected, I go to project. Now you might have issues because you can see here now that when I did some ZBrushing, it's actually smoothed out the mesh, which also means that at some times, actually what I want to do first, sorry I'm jumping between topics here, but I'll get back to that. I just want to remove this from the original one as well. Group by masked, and then do like that, and geometry, modify topology, delete hidden, close holes. There we go. Now what I was saying is that since you can see here, we have smoothed out some geometry, which means that when it's projecting, if a surface in the original model comes too far away from the surface in the new model, it'll not project as it should. So what you can do is to change the distance here from 0.02 to 0.1, for example. May not always work perfectly, but if you have issues with projecting where some points are just not getting projected, play with that value. So now you just have to click project all, and it'll take a little while. You can see we have all the details from the scan in our now nice remeshed model. So this is looking really nice. So we have some quirks here, for example. So I want to take care of that. This is definitely a result of projection issues, but I won't care about that for now. This is looking good. Even though I'm kind of like erasing some details there, I don't really care, to be honest with those details. I can just paint back some details here. I'm just using Alt key and just a standard brush to, brush in some details there. Otherwise, it's looking good, I think. Maybe, no, I can actually keep this detail here as well. Sometimes I want to smooth this out. You can just hold shift and paint with the standard brush and you can smooth it out. Right now, I kind of don't want to do that. I want to keep that detail. So yeah, I think this is looking really good actually. So what I want to do now is to unwrap this. And if you go to C plugin here, you have something called UV master. So what I'm going to do is I click this button up here, this icon, and I can move this menu, and I can drop it out here. So I can have it here. I don't have to go into this menu all the time. I have it here now. However, the problem now is that you cannot unwrap this model because you have to be on the lowest subdivision level, and you cannot have a subdivision history higher, because if I click unwrap here now, I'll get a or maybe I can, but I won't be able to flatten it. So what I want to do is to go to subtool. I just want to make a copy of this here. Then I can go to geometry here, lower everything, delete all the higher geometry. So now we have a low poly model again. And I want to unwrap this. And then you can click flatten here to see your unwrap. Now you can tell this is a bit better. It's not perfect still because this is a really hard mesh to unwrap, but it is better than this. Okay, this is like totally cut up everywhere, while this is one single piece. If you need to do any retouching to fix any parts of the texture, it's easier to do it here than it is on a map that has seams everywhere. So you can just click on flatten now. And what we can do is to copy UVs, click here to copy UVs from this model. And we can go to this model, the new one, and paste UVs. And now we can click the new one that we did the unwrapping on and just delete that. So now we have an unwrapped model on a mesh that has subdivision history, which we couldn't do before. So this is nice. Now what I want to do is to, because I don't want to have, this is half of all the polygons. If it says 500,000 here, you will have 1,000,000 polygons when you take it into 3ds Max. So I don't want to have this model 1,000,000 polys. So what can I do? I can lower this. Maybe I want it around here. That's good. I think this is too low. So I want to have it here. Maybe there. No, I want to have it here to save some geometry. Delete lower, because I don't need the lower resolution anymore. Now what I want to do is to go to UV map first. I want to make this the highest possible, which is 8192. All right. Then I want to go to displacement map, and I want to generate a displacement. And what will happen here is that it creates a displacement map from all the data that is above your active subdivision level. So if you would have number 2 and export this mesh, you will have displacement data only from, you know, the difference between number 2 and number 3. Now I want to export number 1, the first layer, and I want to have the rest of this as a displacement map. So I'll just go to set it to first layer, go to, displacement map, and just click create and export. Displace. No, not now. And now what I want to do, I want to have a normal map as well, just in case, you know, I can just do it. So I want to create normal map. Now this works a little bit different. You can't export it right from here. So what you have to do, you have to click clone normal map. And by doing that, it shows up here in your texture palette. And now you can click export and normal. I want to have it as JPEG, totally fine with that. So now you can see 8192. This is our normal map. It's not perfect, but it works. So let's click OK. And now we can export this one as test low or remeshed, whatever. Okay. So now our work in ZBrush is done. And when you get this routine, you can do all of this work in, you know, 5 minutes. It's really quick actually. But just don't forget, when you start your program, change the scale from 0 to 1. Super important. Now, if we go back to Agisoft, what we can do now is to file, import, model, and we go here, import remeshed. Okay. Yes, I want to replace that. And now we have our low poly model here. So now I can just go to workflow and build texture. And now I want to pay attention. Here you have some different alternatives. And if you click generic, it'll remap your new model, which you don't want to do. So go here and click keep UV. That way it'll use the UV that you had from ZBrush. Another thing you can do is to change here from mosaic to like average and stuff. Mosaic is the default one. It'll create the highest sharpness, but you may have issues with parts or splotches or whatever you call it being blurred. If we encounter that, we'll take care of it. If you use average, you will get a more even texture, but also more blurred. So I don't like that. I'll use mosaic and just click OK. So let's just go here and click texture. And here we got it. Looking great. So what I want to do now is to export this texture as albedo. So let's just open the albedo. And it's looking nice. Now, because of the nature of this unwrap, it will get a bit distorted, but it's still a lot easier to, if you have to do any retouching on it. I don't like how the seam was actually in the middle of the face. We could fix that, but I'll wait with that until the next model, because there are some different things I want to show you. Now, one thing you have to do is to open your displace and normal map, and in Photoshop, sorry. And you have to go to image rotation and flip vertical and save. Same thing goes here. Image rotation, flip vertical, save. So let's try adding this into 3ds Max. I need the object. Just fix the orientation. Fix the scale. Need a shader. Come on. And I want to try adding the displacement here. So this one. That looks really bad. Which is strange. Oh, right. I have to change the ray threshold. There we go. So here's without the displacement, and here's with displacement. I'm getting some issues here, but that's because I think it's because I'm using centimeters instead of millimeters, and displacements, it has to do with the ray threshold value, but it usually works better if you have your scene in millimeters. Anyway, so I just remove the displacement, and I'll use the normal displace as a parallax. Like that. We are getting some nice details doing it that way. And what we can do as well, I think, is to add a mix map here. And we can mix the albedo with the displacement. To get some small, nice details. Actually, all these nice small details are from the albedo. Don't like it that way. This is not the best result. You can see there is a little bug there. And that is probably because the seam goes there for some reason. Maybe I should have used a higher resolution geometry anyway. But for the sake of this tutorial, I won't, I won't redo that. So anyway, I want to have the albedo go into color correction, and I want to add that to the diffuse slot. Actually, what I want to do, I think, is that these albedos, they tend to look better with a higher gamma. Yeah. Something like that looks good. And if you go too close, you can see how the texture is cracking up, but you will never go that close. I mean, this, going it, close as this is looking really good, and it's more than enough. You have these little copper stains here, or whatever it is. I want to make that, I want to make a nice texture of that. So what should I do? First of all, let's make a copy of this one and add that into the reflection texture. And I think I should invert it. So now we're getting more reflection. At least I was expecting to get more reflection on like these metal parts and less on the actual, these yellow parts. It is easier if I have the rendering turned on though, so I can actually see the result of the map. Yeah, so now you can see we have, a lot more reflection on these like metal parts here. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. And there we go. So we have a little bit more metallic feeling now, and we can probably add this into the reflection glossy texture as well. I don't want to have it 100%, but maybe like 60 or something. That's looking nice. Now for these copper stains, yeah, let's see if this works. I just want to make a selection of a color range. Yeah, that looks good. I want to paint that white, and I want to make a mask that is black. And all this shit out here we don't have to care about, so this is nice. So cop reflection map, I'll call it. And in here, now I want to make two materials. So I want to make a copy of this one. Basically just going to change it to a mix map, and I want to keep the old, so now this material is saved into the mix map and I don't have to apply it to the model. So I can go here, make a new material, and I'll make it all red for now because it's easier to see, or let's make it pink. And I want to add our little reflection map here. Should have called it like reflection mix map or something instead, but anyway, add that there. Yeah, you can see how it is being applied now to these spots. I think I can add the same albedo, but I want to have full reflection. I want to have a way higher IOR. I think, can I like make the reflection? I can make like copper colored like that. And I can see we're getting some really nice reflections in that area. This is not really true to the real model because the real model it doesn't actually reflect this much, but I kind of like it anyway. So yeah. I'm happy with this. I'm really happy with this. Let's try to render it in a space. So here I have my base traditional scene. So let's just start a render here, and I'll do some tweaks to the lighting, play around with it, and add our newly scanned Buddha. So here we got the scene. Rendering really slow right now because I only have my internal GPU. But anyway, I'll paste our Buddha in here. I'll just have it there on the table. Then I want to import a candle that I have. Animated candle, there we go. There we go. So let's place that here. The scales are off, obviously. That'll look good. All right. Regarding this candle, I will make a video about that. So if you're wondering like how this candle is done or how to make nice looking candles, I'll cover that, but not in this video. That's a strong candle indeed. Like this, and I don't want to have that ugly glare. That looks better. This is so slow in this scene. Anyway, let's change the lighting a little bit as well, so we get some kind of night scene. So I want to change this HDRI to something else. I'll use Photogrammetry, I think. So I'll use the 1941, I think. I like that one. It'll be really bright right now. Yeah. We'll have to adjust that. Actually, I want to have this here instead. So I guess that concludes this video of finalizing a model in ZBrush and exporting some textures and stuff, and how to make a pretty good looking shader. I mean, you can play around with this a lot if you want to, but this is, you know, the basics. You know, I'm not happy having it there. Just realized. Shit. Let's place it back here. This is a lot more interesting composition. Oh, also I realized I don't have any depth of field. Alright, let's render this for video preview. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. In the next video, I will be doing the same thing with reality capture, and I'll also cover some other tips and tricks in ZBrush when scanning, for example, a pot or a vase or something, to be able to properly unwrap that manually in ZBrush. So that's for the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.